Hi, welcome to my designer diary. This week I saw the announcement of the Cipher System open license, and they've created a Cipher system reference document. Basically, as long as you only use the content from the SRD, you and your own ideas, you can do whatever you like with it. You can you know, create something, publish it in your own name, kickstart it, send it to pods. You can do whatever you want with it. You get books printed, send them, sell them in physical stores. You No restrictions on what you create from the system reference document. Now, what's interesting about that, and my first thought was that Monty Cook Games already have um, the the Cipher System Creators program, which is a community content program. And now I have said this a few times, but I think the community content programs are just dying off. It used to be that there were regular new ones, and you know, they generate quite a lot of sales. They were never ideal for as a independent publisher because they were if you release something through the community content program, you are building up the main publisher, not yourself. But because they drew a nice audience, you got new sales quite quickly. And if the publisher was really promoting the community content program, you would get lots of eyeballs on your new releases, which you aren't competing with the general mass on drive-through. But I've looked through the uh, top five, the five hottest Cipher System content titles, and the hottest one is about a year old. Coming up for a year old. It sold 250 plus copies. So that's kind of five, six, maybe a week. But of course, that would be lots at the beginning and then trailing off. But it's probably going to get sales because it's the hottest title. It draws the eye. It's in the prime spot. Um, the next one is a gold bestseller, but it's 5 years old, and which is actually slightly worrying. So chances are it's selling, you know, um, you know, well, in 250 weeks, it sold less than 1,000. So it's now selling less than four a week. But it would have had a peak of sales and then it's trading off, and it's ticking along slow, slightly steady sales. It's selling less than this title, which is selling. It was 199, so that must be kind of outselling Mortal Fantasy 3-1 to stay ahead of it in the hottest titles. The next title down is slightly more expensive than Mortal Fantasy. Um, so it is probably selling at a slightly slower rate. It's what nearly 18 months old, and it's sold less than 250 copies. So you're talking kind of two, three a week at most. But it's selling well, that's if you average it. I reckon it's selling less. It's certainly selling less than Mortal Fantasy because it costs more, but it is less hot. Now, your next title down, you're now looking at something that is 6 months old. It's it could be selling 1.5 times as fast as the Mecha versus is it Kaiju, and but still, it's in the 6 month it sold uh, less than 250 copies, more than 101. So you're really getting a trailing off there. But to be less hot, it must be selling less than $5 worth. It's selling less than this $5 title. The fifth hottest title on in the CC Community Content Program was an $8 title, so it doesn't have to sell that many. It can afford to sell, you know, one of them for every four of the previous title, or almost at half the rate of the previous ones, and in 18 months it sold less than 50. No, sorry, 6 months it sold 7 months it sold less than 50 copies. So you got this big thing of where things may have been averaging 2, 3 a week, and down to less than two, possibly none. It is a horrible slide off. The numbers just aren't very good, and there's none of those hottest titles were less than 6 months old. If I go back to the starting page, it will eventually load if I'm lucky. The the most recent, the newest title is just over. No, it's coming up for a month old. The second hottest is 6 weeks old. There's nothing new happening here. On a your pattern of releases is measured in weeks and months, not in days. So the new titles are drying up. The sales are uninspiring, and it's just not a good picture. And that's probably the motivation for moving away from the community content program to the open license. The open license doesn't directly earn Monty Cook Games anything directly. But what it will do is the more cipher-based systems there are, the more interest it will create in the official cipher systems, and it will raise the profile of the whole game system, and a rising tide raises all boats, as the saying goes. Now, in the same week, I also saw, now if the page will load, yeah, it does, that Resus, the Anything RPG, is now inviting people to create content for it. And there's a Kickstarter that looks quite good. So, yeah, it's the game's only 4 pages. The sort of thing they're inviting here is kind of 32 to 64 pages, 10 pages. These are small things that they're inviting people to make small things and sell them. Whereas Resus was a kind of closed system before that. But yeah, with the change of hands, we're getting this opening up of the game system. Talking of opening up, now I've been this week is another thing I've been looking at is Wushu, and that one is very open. Now if I can pick the right page, yes. So it is entirely the game itself is pay what you want and well worth paying for. It's a great little game, but it's a Creative Commons by license basically. Share alike, no restrictions. There's just tell them if you make anything based on Wushu, you have to say who wrote Wushu, and put the same kind of the buy share alike license on anything you release, but you can sell it. There's no commercial restrictions. Primal Quest again is something I was working on last week and this week. This has a completely different kind of license as well. It's so when I get there, right? So let's just get through the preamble, and here you go. You want to make a Primal Quest compatible product. It basically says you can use all the words in this rule book, and you just credit the author. And there's a link to follow there, and there's if even that is too restrictive for you, then you can email them directly, and that's at the front of the book. And if I skip down to, I think it's on page 30, nope, 29. There's a little reminder at the end about not necessarily writing things, rule type things there, but if you wanted to actually develop a hex of the hex crawl, then again, under the same license, it's another invitation. It's starting and ending with this invitation to create new content for the game. Very, very 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 open, no restrictions, and this seems to be the way they're going, which again makes it. I think it's putting pressure on the community content programs to you. They aren't performing very well, and I think they'll continue to perform even worse if more games are going in the direction of free compatibility licenses, system reference documents, and trying to encourage people to create for your system and not worrying about trying to earn money off it and letting if you get a community around it, that will sell more of the core game. So yeah, those are my thoughts this week. I think we're seeing the next nail in the coffin of the community content program, which means if you were thinking of publishing that way, I would urge you to think again. The only one with any real activity to it is the Dungeon Masters Guild, which is one of the most restrictive on top of everything else. And I haven't got it open, but if you look at the hottest lists there, the ones which get the real attention, it's all full of pretty big budget stuff. It's the smaller publishers are pretty much being squeezed out of it. So yeah, that's another nail in its coffin, I think. So that's it. Not particularly cheerful one this week, but yeah, that's my designer diary video for this week. Thank you for watching.